This is a regular business meeting of the Redmond City Council held on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, commencing at 7:00 p.m. I will call roll, starting with Council President Kritzer. Councilmember Fields.
Here.
Council Vice President Forsyth.
Here.
Councilmember Salahuddin.
Here.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Here.
And Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
The first item on the agenda is the delivery of the Mayor's 2025-2026 biennial budget, and I will be sharing the details from down here this evening. So, good evening. I'm Mayor Angela Burney, and tonight I'm honored to present the City of Redmond's 2025-2026 preliminary biennial budget. Before I begin my overview, I want to thank the Redmond community members who provided us with invaluable feedback on this budget. Your input and that of the volunteers who participated in the Civics Results team provided a direction and prioritization that the director's team and I used to balance this budget. I'd like to recognize our council for all of the preliminary work you have done regarding public safety, alternative crisis care, and flexible transit opportunity initiatives to ensure this budget provides our community with the solutions and resources needed now and into the future. I also want to express my appreciation to the budget offer writers and coordinators, our deputy directors and staff results team, and our finance department, which has done incredible work this year to streamline our budget process, close our public safety funding gap, and ensure that this budget reflects the Redmond of today. We know that people come to Redmond from all over the world for good jobs, a world-class education, and to live in a beautiful setting. When I talk to people around the city, they tell me they love Redmond for its parks, unique local businesses, vibrant downtown, and welcoming spirit. Over the past several years, we have done great work together to maintain what we cherish most about our community while welcoming tens of thousands of new community members and jobs. As stewards of this place, we are responsible to ourselves and the people who call Redmond home now and in the future to plan for growth so that community can enjoy a high quality of life and essential city services as Redmond grows from a suburb to a city. The criteria the directors and I used to develop this proposed budget also included aligning with the city vision of a connected community that enhances livability, sustains the environment, and leads locally, regionally, and nationally, while upholding the values of the city's 4 budget priorities confirmed annually since 2020 that include a healthy, sustainable environment that supports an active community, a safe and resilient community where all people feel safe, a strategic and responsive community that is welcoming, service-oriented, and fiscally responsible, a well-planned and supported community that is vibrant and connected, and that provides a sense of place. The budget evolves us past the pandemic and aligns with the Redmond 2050 Comprehensive Plan, the Environmental Sustainability Action Plan, Vision Zero, the Economic Development Strategic Plan, the Tourism Strategic Plan, and the Community Strategic Plan, which have established a clear path toward realizing our city's vision. When combined with prudent fiscal policies, ongoing pandemic recovery, and economic growth, these efforts have created favorable conditions that have enabled the city to address the persistent public safety funding gap, invest in desired community-informed programs, and progress on critical initiatives. The 2025-2026 budget highlights include the resolution of the remaining $6 million public safety funding gap and an increase of 8 public safety full-time employees. A human services per capita rate increase of 43% from $20.99 in 2024 to $37.18 in 2026. Budgeting for equity program service enhancements of $279,118 to address communication barriers and ongoing ADA improvements for transportation and city facilities, or American Disabilities Act. Housing investments of $5 million carried forward in the capital investment program from the previous biennium. A commitment to a $225 million investment in the city's maintenance and operations center redevelopment. Enhanced operating and capital program reserves and contingencies. A significant investment in ongoing resources to implement and support citywide environmental sustainability programs. And an overall increase in 41.5 full-time employees. This next biennium will be an exciting time in Redmond's history. We will welcome our downtown and Marymore Village light rail stations next year, and in 2026, you will be able to ride rail from Redmond to the 2026 FIFA World Cup game at Lumen Field and catch a flight at SeaTac without sitting in traffic. I'd like to invite the community to continue to share their thoughts and questions on the budget by email or by attending or calling in at one of our remaining public hearings on October 15th, November 4th, or later in this meeting tonight. The complete balanced preliminary budget is now available on our website at redmond.gov/budget. Thank you. And I look forward to starting our discussion with the council on the preliminary budget at the October 22nd study session. Thank you all. All right. The next item of the agenda is items from the audience. I have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak tonight. When I read your name, you will come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. Council members generally will not respond to comments or questions directly at the meeting. Members of the public are welcome to email the council anytime at mayorcouncil@redmond.gov. The views stated by members of the public do not represent the opinion of the City of Redmond. And as a reminder, RCW 4217A555 prohibits any public comment during the council meeting in support or opposition of ballot propositions, measures, or candidates. All comments must pertain to the City of Redmond business as indicated in the sign-in sheet. And there are 3 people signed up this evening for public comment in person, and 1 person, excuse me, signed up for online comment. We'll start with Deb Young and then David Morton. It's not doing the 3 minutes. Just a moment.
Is it okay?
Just one moment.
I'm never very good at this.
No, hang on one moment. We're trying to get our,
just tell
there we
me
go.
what to do.
Now we're ready. Go ahead, Deb. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Deb Young, and I'm just here because of a safety concern issue. Mayor Bernie was just mentioning safety issues. I did email a few of you, and Steve Fields was very good and responsive and understanding of the situation. A good listener. Thank you, Steve. But anyway, the situation is Farrell McWhirter Park for 1 year has had drug activity that we as neighbors have observed. You have a honey bucket that's placed in a camouflaged area. The parking lot is totally isolated. It is off 196th, which is a road that I live in, and all the rest of the neighbors. When we come sometimes twice a day to ride the horse or to walk the dog. We make observations that maybe others wouldn't because we live there and see this every day. But over the course of a year, we have requested, we have informed of what we have seen. We have called 911. Things are on record. Twice, personally, I had to call 911. The officers there are wonderful, and they are trying to get this situation with this individual. What has happened is he's going in the honey bucket, and they're actually providing him for a place to do his drugs. We see it. We know who he is. Now, he goes in the honey bucket, closes the door, and then he comes out, and he lurks around in the bushes. He's there sometimes all day long, pacing, flailing his arms, and he's become more escalated in his behavior. So he, possibly an evaluator, a social worker, could approach him through the police or whatever. But there's a very bad problem. It's very isolated. If you've ever walked through there, in that parking lot, there is no way to get in, one way to get out. And everybody knows nobody's down there. The programs from the Parks Department are pretty much over for the winter. You go down there, isolated, and people know that. Don't think they don't. So I'm asking to have the toilets removed for the community.
Thank you.
Okay.
And next up is David Morton.
Good evening, I'm David Morton. Redmond can enhance its environmental sustainability through several initiatives. First, expanding public transit and bike infrastructure. To reduce the city's carbon footprint, Redmond can further invest in sustainable transportation options. Expanding its bus networks and encouraging the use of electric buses can lower emissions. Improving bike lanes, creating bike sharing programs, and promoting walking can reduce reliance on cars, thereby lowering traffic congestion and air pollution. Second, encouraging electric vehicles, or EVs. Redmond can promote the use of EVs by installing more EV charging stations throughout the city. Offering incentives for residents and businesses to transition to EVs and hybrid vehicles will contribute to reducing the city's greenhouse gas emissions. Third, green building initiatives. Redmond can encourage sustainable development by adopting stricter energy-efficient building codes for new constructions and renovations. The city can provide incentives for developers to use eco-friendly materials and implement energy-saving technologies like solar panels, green roofs, and smart energy systems. Fourth, increasing the use of renewable energy like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power in all buildings can make Redmond more sustainable. And so can partnering with utilities to provide incentives for residents and businesses to switch to clean energy. Fifth, Redmond can boost its waste reduction initiatives by expanding recycling and composting programs. Offering educational workshops to encourage residents to minimize single-use plastics, compost food waste, and recycle correctly would contribute to a more sustainable waste management system. Sixth, protecting, maintaining, and expanding the city's green spaces is crucial for biodiversity and reducing urban heat island effects. Redmond could continue prioritizing the preservation of parks, wetlands, and forests, and create new urban gardens and green areas for residents to enjoy. Finally, more frequent and expanded water quality testing of municipal drinking water wells. As Redmond plans for thousands more workers performing industrial activities in the Southeast Redmond Industrial Growth Center, the risk of contaminating Redmond's CARAs increases. Monitoring unregulated contaminants and more frequent testing for regulated pollutants can provide additional data relevant to water quality. These strategies can significantly enhance Redmond's environmental sustainability, reduce its ecological footprint, and improve quality of life for residents. Thank you.
And thank you. Next is Mr. Joe Kunzler online. Is it not working tonight? Okay, we're trying our online commenter one more time. Our online commenter, for whatever reason, we're not able to connect with him tonight. So if he is listening, he can please feel free to send us an email so that everyone can read that. But thank you to our clerk, Cheryl Xanthos, for trying that a few times. Our next item of business, excuse me, the items from the audience is now closed. Our next item of business is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items to be pulled? Council President.
Number 5.
Number 5. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Number 4. Not 5. I'm good with 5.
Okay, number 4.
Number 4.
Okay, thank you. That was a little confusing. Councilmember Anderson?
I have a comment on one of the agenda items.
We'll do a vote, and then I'll take your comment.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so item number 4, are there any other items to be pulled? Okay, seeing none, this is a roll call vote. After I read resolution for item number 5 into the record, a resolution of the City of Council of the City of Redmond, Washington, notifying the public of its intent to designate 3 locations as residential targeted areas overlay faith-based institutions and neighborhood for the purposes of expanding the city's multifamily property tax exemption program and setting the required public hearing. And with that, a roll call vote, starting with Council President.
Aye.
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 Fields.
Aye.
And with that, passes 7-0. Thank you very much. And Councilmember Anderson, you had a comment?
Sure, thank you. I thought this item was going to be pulled. The item number 5 that we just read into the record, I just wanted to add a comment on this that I shared with Director Helen, and I wanted to say thank you for that response that I received from her. One of the comments was that the state has a requirement to call specific areas targeted areas, and I had commented to her that I'm not sure faith-based institutions located in a residential targeted area would like that name, and it is in the state code, and I asked Amy Sy to take a look at that in terms of our legislative agenda, so I wanted to add that and have that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who would like to move item number 4?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Councilmember Kritzer, you pulled the item. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I would like to move to amend the user fee schedule for the extended right-of-way use fee for outdoor dining per square foot from $2 to $1.75.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded
$1.75.
to amend the resolution to change the user fee or the fee from $2 to $1.75. Would you like to comment on your amendment?
Yes, I've really appreciated the study on this and the staff consideration on this. I've also appreciated the amount of public feedback that we've received on this as we discussed in study session. We did a Let's Connect survey with the public to find out how they felt about outdoor dining and saw overwhelming support for this and actually wanting more of this type of issue. We also had our staff do an incredible amount of work engaging with the public around this actual fee and getting their feedback, and I think there was a lot of concern about the issues with the amount of impetus we might put on businesses. I also think, based on our study, that we do need to impose a fee in order to avoid a gift of public funds and also to recoup some of the costs to our staff for this fee. Looking at our surrounding jurisdictions, I think a fee of $1.75 is very comparable to what we see in places like Kirkland or Bothell, and is actually still higher than those, but it is lower than the $2 proposed. And I think would act as an incentive to make sure if we have businesses that are thinking about where they want to set up, and especially whether they would want to provide more of this type of outdoor dining rather than less, which is what we hear from our public, that they have that incentive. So I think reducing this, I also want to thank the staff for the work that they did getting feedback from the businesses. Really excited about the opportunity for businesses to be able to reduce some of the amount of paperwork and be able to do their permit for 2 years rather than 1 year, so that it can streamline a little bit of the process. But I would like to see this change to reduce the rate so that it's a little bit more comparable to our surrounding jurisdictions.
Would anyone else like to speak to this amendment? Council Vice President.
Thank you. This was a conversation that we had very deeply in our committee and study sessions, and I'm supporting this motion because I feel like while we've done a lot of the work, we wouldn't be being true to our mission as council members if we weren't actually listening to the public's input as well. So I will be supporting this motion.
Great. Councilmember Stewart?
Thanks so much for bringing this proposal forward. When we last left off on the conversation at committee, there was a question. I believe the way that the question was phrased was, what is the minimum amount that the city could charge in order to both honor the businesses but also do our duty as fiduciaries? And I am wondering how that sentiment was included in the proposal this evening. I'm hearing some need to be more comparable with surrounding jurisdictions, but I'm wondering if there has been additional math regarding how we right-size the fee.
Council President?
I would say that I asked that question, I think, in committee, then I asked it again in study session, and the answer was $2 is the recommendation. So I never received the full math, but we do have the information on what some of our neighboring cities charge, and we know that $2 gets us pretty close to cost recovery. Is it $2 on the nose? I didn't get that answer. So it seemed to me like we did pick a general rate that was in the appropriate ballpark, and so I would say, so my proposal is that we make the ballpark slightly lower in order to be able to be competitive with our peers and also to show our businesses that we're listening to them. For us, the amount of dollars that this will translate to, especially given that right now we're talking about 6 businesses this will be collected from, is going to be a very small amount of the city budget. For those businesses, every dollar really counts for their margin.
Council Vice President?
Thanks. And it was my understanding through that conversation that the permitting part of the recovery was mostly covering all of that cost recovery. And what I had heard from that conversation was that we had the opportunity to lower that $2. So that's why, Council President Kritzer and I had talked about this beforehand, and that's why I'm supportive of lowering this to $1.75, because it's not a huge decrease, but to the small businesses whose margins are so thin, this could be impactful.
Councilmember Stewart?
Thank you, and really just leading with curiosity here to make sure we're going to make the right decision. I wonder if there are staff available who would be able to respond. We are talking about 25 cents per square foot, but if there is any staff who would like to respond regarding the impact, I would be open to hearing that before we take this vote.
Thank you. I have Director Burt online who can share his information.
Yes, hi, council members. Aaron Burt, Public Works Director. Public Works would be supportive of the $1.75 proposal on the table. That's fine from the department operational standpoint.
Great. Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote for the amendment of from $2 to $1.75. I will do a roll call starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And that passes 7-0. And now back to the original resolution, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Redmond, Washington, amending the user fee schedule for Public Works to add fees associated with extended usage of rights-of-way for outdoor dining, and within that text, change the $2 to $1.75. Any other comments on this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And that passes 7-0. Thank you all very much. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the 2025-2026 biennial budget, property tax levy, and other revenue sources. I am now opening the public hearing. I have the sign-in sheet for members of the public to speak in person tonight. When I call your name, you'll come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. And the clerk received no request to speak remotely, which is good since it doesn't seem like that's working right tonight. First and only speaker for our budget this evening is Mr. David Morton.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm David Morton. This hearing is an essential step in ensuring that Redmond continues to thrive while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Given the city's ongoing needs and aspirations, I'd like to address several key points related to revenue considerations for the coming biennium. First, property taxes play a critical role in funding essential city services such as public safety, infrastructure maintenance, parks, and recreational programs. However, it's important to balance the need for revenue with the potential burden on property owners. While an increase in the property tax levy might be necessary to meet growing service demands, it's crucial to evaluate this carefully. Modest increases, perhaps in line with inflation, would help maintain services without placing undue pressure on residents, particularly those on fixed incomes. Exploring exemptions or tax relief options for vulnerable groups such as seniors and low-income households could ensure that any property tax adjustments are equitable. In addition to property taxes, I encourage the city to continue diversifying its revenue streams to reduce dependency on any single source. Sales tax revenues, business and occupation taxes, and utility taxes are potential avenues to bolster funding without excessively relying on property taxes. Additionally, Redmond's rapid growth as a tech hub offers opportunities to leverage business partnerships and attract new industries that can contribute to the local economy. A focus on sustainable development, innovation, and public-private partnerships will strengthen your fiscal foundation. Moreover, Redmond could consider the potential of expanding fees for services and permits such as development impact fees to ensure that the costs of growth are equitably shared by developers and new businesses. These fees could also support critical infrastructure projects tied to transportation and housing, ensuring that the city's development is both financially sustainable and environmentally responsible. Redmond may also want to explore grants and state or federal funding opportunities, particularly for infrastructure improvements and environmental sustainability projects, which would further alleviate pressure on local taxes and incentivize green development initiatives. In conclusion, while property tax revenues remain a cornerstone of Redmond's budget, thoughtful increases balanced by diverse revenue sources and equitable, sustainable measures will help ensure a robust, resilient, and sustainable future for Redmond. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. And for those watching from home, we have 2 more scheduled public hearings, October 15th and November 4th. And you also can email Mayor Council or call in at one of our other public meetings as well. Our next item of business is a staff report for the annual update of the 2025-2030 6-year Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. Carol Helen, Director of Planning and Community Development, will introduce this item.
Thank you for the introduction, Mayor, and good evening, council members. Tonight, we're continuing the conversation that we started at your 2PW meeting on September 3rd regarding the 2025-20 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program, commonly referred to as the TIP, so you'll probably have staff referring to it in that way. The TIP is the state-mandated program that's required to be updated annually by the city and reported to the state for development of the statewide Transportation Improvement Program, the STIP. Additionally, the TIP is important to the city as projects receiving federal or state funding must be reported on the TIP annually, or projects that the city anticipates applying for grants for needs to be on this document so that we are eligible. Tonight, I'm joined by Michael Hintz and Josh Mueller from the Transportation Planning and Engineering Division in Planning and Community Development, and I'd like to pass the presentation over to them to walk you through this year's TIP and answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you, Director Helland, and good evening, council members and the mayor. Before we walk through the changes to this year's TIP, I'd like to point out attachment A in your packets for an infographic that help explains the relevant transportation plans and programs that help develop the TIP. Let's see. Sorry, went too fast there. The document there and the slide above shows how long and midterm transportation plans develop the near-term projects that we'll see tonight on the TIP. The TIP is shaped by the vision and policies outlined in the comprehensive plan and the long-range plan projects that are in the Transportation Master Plan, including the build-out plan and the Transportation Facilities Plan. The capital investment strategies and the CIP are also important for development of the TIP. As we look at this slide, moving from the comprehensive plan to the functional plan of the Transportation Master Plan, you can see how the TIP is created by an interconnection with all these various planning documents. So now that we kind of understand what the TIP is, we'll go a little bit more deeper into it. The TIP is a 6-year program that highlights all near-term projects that are of regional significance and is required to be reported to the state for development of the State Transportation Improvement Program, the STIP. All local agencies are mandated to update their TIP each year. Again, the TIP is a planning document reflecting the current status of transportation projects at the city. Projects are constantly evolving due to changing schedules or new funding sources. I want to note that the TIP is only a snapshot in time. As you can imagine, the TIP is a living document throughout the year that reflects the latest developments. The TIP is divided into, I'd say, two parts. Year 1 through 3 are focused on projects that are partially funded or fully funded. The first 2 years being reflective of the CIP. Then the last 4 to 6 years typically have little or no funding identified. These projects represent future budgets or foreseeing projects that could be funded by other agencies or through private development agreements. And again, an important component of the TIP is reporting to the state on projects that have grant funding or projects that the city would like to see in future grant opportunities. This can ensure that we secure the necessary funding to enhance our transportation infrastructure. So this is a little bit repetitive, but why do the annual update? And again, I just want to focus and highlight the most important parts of the TIP for the city. It's that we meet the state requirements, we reflect any changes in the budgets, and we accurately report any grant funding that we have associated with projects or projects that we want to seek new funds for. So as we dive into the TIP changes for this year, in the council packet is a list of project changes, that's attachment B, and a map of these where they're located, and that's attachment C. This list includes completed projects that will be removed this year, even some projects that will be removed from the TIP. It includes added projects or revised projects. These projects are in alignment with any funding changes through the CIP and the current budget development. So to step through some of the project changes this year, there are 9 completed projects to be removed from the list. And I'll start with the first project there, the Redmond Technology Station Pedestrian Bridge, the Northeast 40th Street Shared Use Path, the 156 Cycle Track, the Overlake Access Ramp, the Plaza Street roadway connection at the Overlake Village Station, 90th Street Bridge Deck Overlay, the first segment of a multi-project pavement rehabilitation on Avondale Road, and several pedestrian and safety improvement projects throughout the city, completing some rectangular rapid flashing beacon crossings and other flashing crossings. So Redmond's experienced very exciting movements in transportation over the last year and a half. And I just want to stop and mention how many of these projects bring a focus for multimodal transportation options for people. So it's pretty impressive. There are a couple projects that are nearing completion for 2024. They could have been added to the list this year. Staff have reviewed these and monitored them, but as you can imagine, it's kind of hard to estimate when projects will be completed. So these projects will remain even if they do get completed in 2024. I just want to let the council know that there's no repercussions for these projects remaining on the 2025-2030 list, even if they do get completed in 2024. They'll just be the first set of lists that get removed next year's update. There are two projects that will be removed from the TIP, B83 and B106, and these are related to the multi-use trail and bridge over SR 520 along 148th. The update here also includes an added project you'll see on the next slide. That's B116, Multimodal Overlake Village Access Project, that you'll see on the following slide. Amy Sy will be presenting to the council next week, and so there's more to come on that. The revision project for the Redmond Central Connector Trail. This project is being completed by Sound Transit. It's connecting Southeast Redmond and the Marymore Village Station to downtown, so connecting two urban centers in the future. There was some additional trail that was added in WSDOT's right-of-way for this project, and so that was the need for revision of this project. Really excited about it, expanding non-motorized connectivity between the two stations. It's going to be great. So, as I mentioned, this year's update's a little bit larger than we saw last year, and that's because it's a budget year. We have 8 new projects that are added to this year's TIP. I'd like to highlight the first one, which is the Bell Red and Westlake Sammamish Parkway roundabout. This is a new project for the CIP, but not entirely a new project for the TIP. This roundabout is part of a long-standing project that's been on the city's Transportation Master Plan and Transportation Facilities Plan list for a corridor improvement on Westlake Sammamish Parkway from Bell Red Road all the way to Northeast 51st, including this roundabout. You can see that in the TIP, the design work, project C81. There were 6 other projects added based on pavement condition maintenance needs. These rehabilitation projects have been added to the outer years of the TIP for consideration of future funding. And again, council will be presented on the Multimodal Overlake Village Access Project next week by Amy Sy, as it's part of the state legislative agenda item. So I don't want to steal any of Amy's thunder, but this is a good example of how the TIP is a living document. There's something always changing and needing to be updated. And it's why we kind of call it a snapshot in time for the transportation projects. Here I'd like to take a look at the proposed timeline for the TIP. The TIP was presented at 2 PW on September 3rd. Tonight, staff are requesting that the council hold a public hearing for the TIP on October 15th. This requires a public hearing notice that staff have already prepared. Draft documents of the updated TIP are now posted for public view on the city's webpage. Transportation planning will also be emailing notifications to interested stakeholders, including WSDOT, the Puget Sound Regional Council, TIB, and our local neighboring jurisdictions, and other interest groups. Following the October 15th public hearing, the council can take action on adopting the annual TIP. And I'd like to wrap up the presentation by saying thank you and open it back up to the council for any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Josh. Are there any questions this evening? Council President, and then Councilmember Salahuddin, and then Councilmember Stewart.
I can hold my question until next week on the 148th project, but I will put it out there in case you all have any comments on it. My only concern about changing that is whether, because we were allocated funds from the state legislature for a particular proposal, if that puts any of that, the kind of current status at risk. but I can also hold it if you don't know the answer.
I too don't want to steal Amy Tsai's thunder here, but yeah, it's a process that we've been working with her very closely on, and we're mindful that we don't want to lose the opportunity for that funding. So we believe we have a proposal that meets the intent and the original spirit of that allocation, but also recognizes that building a bridge across 520 just west of where a brand new bridge was built is probably not the most feasible or high priority use of funds. So
Got it.
more to come on that.
Thank you. And I do have one other question, if you'll allow me, Mayor. So just looking through this, I actually, at our council conversations last night, was asked about the connection between Marymoor to Idlewood Park and the bike infrastructure between those two spaces, since it's not as easy to safely bike just right on that chunk of path. And I couldn't tell from our TIP if we do have a project in here on this that's covered under one of the Westlake Sammamish projects, or if that piece of road is not included.
It may not be on the TIP just because the TIP is focused on 6 years. It is in the Transportation Master Plan and the TFP in separate portions. I could look a little bit deeper into the TIP and make sure that any of those portions are in that list.
Great. Well, if it's not in the next 6 years, I would love, maybe before we come back for the public hearing on this, to just understand what is the general proposed timeline, because I get asked about that stretch of street a lot, and I think we discussed it a little bit even in our subcommittee. Thanks.
Councilmember Salahuddin?
Thank you. I think Council President Kritzer and I talked to the same person, because that was another comment that came up to me as well. No questions, but just want to appreciate the work that Michael and Josh, you've done to put this together. And I had the opportunity to meet with both of them 2 weeks ago, just to walk through as a new council member all about the TIP. So I just want to express my thanks to you for explaining this even ahead of the meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stewart?
Thanks. I'll go ahead and reserve all of my questions around 148th for next week, but those were the burning questions I brought for today. I do want to thank the team. This document, it always generates a lot of public interest because of the enthusiasm we have for multimodal, especially here in our city, as well as our pavement condition index. So thanks to the team who has already responded to several questions on this, and I look forward to the conversation next week with Amy. Thanks.
Thank you. And Council Vice President Forsyth?
Thank you. I'm glad that other folks are getting those bike questions on Westlake Sammamish, because I usually get that question all the time. So glad other folks are hearing those concerns as well. My question actually revolves around the Westlake Sammamish Bell Red roundabout. Last time we talked about this, I'd asked for some insights into how we're actually making that bike safe and that bike improvement for that particular project. So if you could just indulge me for a brief moment of how we're actually improving that intersection, because that was one that I had brought up that I'd heard a lot from community about, that left turn to get to Westlake Sammamish being really problematic, and a roundabout could help if drivers are being safe. So what is the logistics there for bike safety?
So that will all be determined in the design process, but we will be following modern roundabout design standards, which have evolved over recent years to really address some of the, I would say, drawbacks as they relate to pedestrian and bicycle safety. So the advantage of a roundabout is that it does slow vehicles on the approach. And so to take a left onto Westlake Sammamish will be, the crossing will be shorter and vehicles will be approaching it slower. There's other opportunities to integrate like rapid flashing beacons and other treatments to really raise awareness of drivers as they approach the roundabout.
Thanks. I will go ahead and put in my plug for doing all of those things that we can, since that is a very active bikeway. And I appreciate maybe looking at some of the Dutch methods for roundabouts and all the new technologies we can for safety in that area.
Any other questions this evening? Well, thank you both very, very much, and appreciate all the work.
Thank you.
The next report was supposed to be our 23-24 Environmental Sustainability Action Plan Annual Progress Report. It's being moved to the October 15th business meeting due to illness. So more to come on the 15th. And so that leads us to the next item, are our ombuds reports. Are there any ombuds report? We have Councilmember Anderson for the month of September, and then Councilmember Nueva Camina starting out fresh on October. So let's check in with Councilmember Anderson.
Awesome, thank you. So we had several emails following our September 17th council meeting. We had several requests to postpone votes on the ARCH transaction that occurred on that meeting, that came in after the meeting, as well as the day of or during the meeting. So I wanted to make sure those got on the record. We had multiple requests after that meeting for on the same project, which was the Plymouth Housing Project, for the City Council to investigate fraudulent or illegal activities and financial limits and controls on the Plymouth Housing Project and the affordable housing allocation of $10 million and ARCH commitments. A specific request for an audit on this transaction, an inquiry raising concern about a pizza place business owner having a meeting with the mayor regarding Plymouth Housing, asking us if it was concerning, and I replied back that it sounded like the mayor had a meeting with a business owner. The multiple emails were also received regarding a smash and grab burglaries at the hashtag cannabis store using stolen vehicles to cause building damage, and requests to support a resolution that we discussed this afternoon at the Public Works Committee meeting, number 1559, in support of some way for council to develop a process around protecting businesses around the city. Requests for, I should say, reports of multiple mobility issues for wheelchair users on the sidewalks. A business owner requesting the removal of the DRB, Design Review Board. I have to remember what that acronym means. So we had at least one inquiry about the lease on the property for Plymouth Housing that is existing currently on that project property, and a suggestion to look into a first responder drone program. We also had that report we heard earlier today from a resident regarding drug use at Farrell McWhorter Park. And then a conversation I had with a resident that I'll add to this is that a car was parked on the corner of the sidewalk on the Avondale Road corridor, and the owner reported a problem with their anti-lock brakes. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And Councilmember Nueva Camina, one day, October 1st.
One day and straight to City Hall from my day job, so I will have a fabulous ombuds report at our next business meeting.
Fantastic. I cannot believe it's October, by the way. Councilmember Salahuddin.
Thank you. Had some great opportunities for community engagement with public events. So want to just run down and talk about the events that I went to, some of which were hosted by the city, the Downtown Redmond Art Walk, which is a great opportunity in Redmond Downtown Park, as well as recently conversations with council. So thank you to everyone who showed up there. Also had the opportunity to join the East Rail Partners End of Summer Celebration, hosted in Bellevue. Great opportunity there to talk about our trail connections throughout our region. This weekend, I went to the Indian American Community Services Diwali Bazaar at the Redmond Senior and Community Center. Great show of community and a lot of really great vendors, local vendors, many of which were from Redmond as well. Went to the East Side for All Beyond Engagement event. Councilmember Stewart was there as well. And that was a chance to talk with and listen to speakers from our cities, Redmond, Bellevue, Kirkland, and other regional partners. ARCH was there as well to talk about the work that we're doing holistically and together on engaging our communities in important work. Also went to the Together Center extravaganza, and finally this past weekend went to the Washington State Martial Arts Festival at Crossroads Park, which was hosted by Transcend United, Redmond-based organization who is doing great work to provide opportunities for our seniors, many of which are from the Chinese community.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Stewart?
Thank you. First and foremost, I am still smiling because yesterday's council conversations in the park were absolutely fantastic. Thanks to all those who came to Downtown Park to chat with us. A couple of the topics that I had great conversations with around the tables, permanent supportive housing, the public safety budget, the comprehensive plan, and particularly received a lot of questions about how to make my neighborhood more complete. It would be great to have a coffee shop in my neighborhood. It might be great to be able to buy a gallon of milk in my neighborhood. So it was really great to report back on all the work that the committees and the Planning Commission and the staff and the council that we've all done to actually really respond to these community needs. Also had great conversation on the need for more ownership opportunities and housing, and answered a lot of questions about light rail, when it's coming, what to expect when light rail's coming, and in terms of how folks will get there. A couple of other great conversations at my office hours last week. I had an inquiry about a historic marker at the former Redmond train depot that's actually related to the opening of light rail, working with staff on that one. Also had some feedback on opportunities for the city to foster more collaboration with community-based organizations, and it's something I'm doing a lot of thinking about, and thinking about what role the council might want to, what conversation we might want to have on this, maybe in our retreat in 2025. Really appreciated the feedback from those folks. Again, the Downtown Redmond Art Walk, it was absolutely fantastic. I've said that before. Had so much interest and so many folks who don't know about the Redmond Senior and Community Center, so I just wanted to double click on the fact that it's having another open house on October 19th. Go and see the space, enjoy some of the activities, bring your kids, bring the whole family, and check that out. It's a really great venue, not only for the arts, but all of the recreation happening in that space as well. I attended the Association of Eastside Agencies Serial Social that the council was invited to, made a lot of great connections. The Beyond Engagement event was fantastic, featuring Redmond staff and their engagement process. And I had 3 meetings with executive directors of community-based organizations working to support families with basic needs, housing stability, and mental health. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Any other ombuds items, Council President?
Well, I think my colleagues covered a lot of the types of feedback I've been getting and noted many of the events that I joined in as well, so I won't double up on those. I will note a huge thanks to everyone for coming out who came to council conversations. I think we had a count of about 60 residents who came to that conversation, and it was great to have almost our entire council there. So really exciting to all be there together and be able to talk with folks. I did want to let the council know that we'll be working with the comm staff to come up with a follow-up email with resources for people who attended, since we have the people who signed in, and I will send an email copying the council to all of those attendees so they know if they want to follow up, they had questions. I know many people, they told me their issue, and by the time I was ready to talk, the time was up and we had to switch. So definitely want people to know the way to contact each of us if they want to follow up on any of these issues. And as I noted at this, we are hoping to schedule in January our next set of council conversations, and that will be more of a town hall format at the Redmond Senior and Community Center. Date still to be finalized, but I will be letting the council know ASAP so you can put it in your calendars. And the other thing that I'll note, I've had a lot of good conversations actually at office hours and out in community in recent times. I will just follow up on events that I thought was really wonderful to go to the Together Center a resource fair, and just to note how many amazing organizations are housed now within the Together Center, and just encourage people, even when they're not having a resource fair, to go and take advantage of all of the different really great community-based organizations that are right there with a lot of service available for the community. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other ombuds item this evening? Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier, I passed so that we could do the events ombuds, since mine was a little bit different starting today. But over the last couple of weeks, of course, I got to see many of my colleagues at the Art Walk and the fabulous extravaganza that was over at the Together Center. I believe that the goal for that was to have approximately 150 attendees, and clearly that was probably triple that number. It was absolutely beautiful. I also was able to get in some volunteer hours over at Marymore Dog Park over the weekend, helping out SODA. And it was lovely because not only were there, people from our area, but also from the surrounding East Side and Seattle. Actually, I got to talk with a couple of people from Chelan, which was a lot of fun. But mainly how many Redmond residents take advantage of the dog park, even folks that don't own dogs when they just need a little bit of dog kick. I also attended the Porch Light Lighting the Way fundraiser just a few days ago and got to hear more stories of people's lives who have been absolutely changed coming inside from outside. But not only the people who have experienced being unhoused, but also the volunteers and the city workers that work alongside. It was a beautiful demonstration of how we're all in this together, and we definitely need to take a public-private approach to making differences in this area.
Thank you. Council Vice President, you had another ombuds issue?
I haven't given one yet.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Everyone else covered all of the events that a lot of us attended. The East Trail event was particularly fantastic. And I will also throw a plug in for I attended the Redmond High School football game where the marching band took the field for the first time in 20 years. And that was a really exciting event. And I found out that they are doing a new program every home game. So that is a huge undertaking. And I look forward to continuing to find ways that we as a community can support the new marching band.
Great. Thank you. That's great. Any other ombuds items? Sorry about that. Okay, seeing none. Well, we have a little bit of unfinished business from the prior conversation. We need to set the hearing date for October 15th for the TIP. And so, Council Vice President, would you like to make a motion?
I move that we set the public hearing for the 2025-2030 six-year transportation improvement program on October 15th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Council President Kritzer.
Aye.
Councilmember Fields? Council Vice
Hello,
President?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. And that passes 7-0. Thank you all very much. Thank you for jumping back in time for a brief moment. Next, we have committee reports. Are there any committee reports this evening? Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. Earlier this evening, we had a committee of the whole for Planning and Public Works. We are continuing to work on changes to bring our zoning code in conformance with state legislation, Senate Bill 5290. We worked on some tourism, approval of some grant funding, had the recommendation from the LTAC, our Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. Those recommendations will be incorporated into the budget and supporting great events all year long. We renewed a contract with our marketing agency for the Experience Redmond Tourism Board and adopted some other contracts and vendor agreements for public works projects. We also had an update on our capital investment program, and it was decided in that conversation that the capital investment program quarterly updates will come back to staff reports. So appreciate the staff who asked the question on the fly today. Really appreciate that. And we had additional items that were facilitated by the council president in our meeting today. I also attended the Growth Management Planning the Growth Management Planning Council for King County. We are continuing to wrestle with growth target reconciliation for a couple of cities, and our SCA caucus is very involved in that and receiving great support from our new policy analyst at SCA. If you haven't met AJ, she's absolutely fantastic. And last week I attended the One Redmond Government Affairs Committee. They had several updates, the most significant being from Deputy Director Haritha Nara, a very similar budget forecast presentation that we had seen at our council study session the week prior. As you council may remember, on our last study session when we saw the forecast, it also included a few of the recommended changes moving into the next biennium and the next budget, and there was no questions or feedback from the community that was participating in that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports this evening? Council President?
I attended the RIA 8 Salmon Recovery Council meeting, and we approved our work plan as well as budget for the upcoming year. I will note that Redmond's cost share is all the costs are going up a small amount by CPI essentially. So Redmond's cost share increase will be about $3,000 from the previous year. But I think overall really worth the investment to be able to support our salmon recovery goals. Also got an update. We're seeing some really good numbers through the locks, although we were also told to temper our expectations since we know that one of the biggest challenges that actually we're working on collectively is helping the salmon get beyond the locks and all the way to their final destination. I will say, if you go over to the Friends of the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery, or even if you look in our rivers right now, but you can see a lot at the hatchery, you can see the ones that have made it, and they're in large numbers. I know upcoming, even though it's not our event, Issaquah's having their Salmon Days this upcoming weekend, where you can go and check that out, but also anytime. But you can also check out in our own Sammamish River. I also wanted to note one of the things that we had within that meeting is that we had an update from King County Stormwater Services and Science and Technical Support on water quality priorities, including efforts to address 6 ppdq, toxic tire dust and stormwater runoff, and how requirements in municipal stormwater permit municipal stormwater permits support salmon recovery. So really interesting for us to think about with our own jurisdictions and learning from King County. I know we had a lot of discussion recently about, testing in our waterways and how we can improve that. So I'll be sharing some of the pieces that we got from that with our staff for us to think about for those future conversations, but I'm also happy to share with any members of the council that are interested. And then related to going to see the salmon, just wanted to remind everyone that if you Google salmon season, that's SEESON, you'll find a really cool map all around King County that shows you where you can see salmon at what times. So just excited about salmon these days.
It's great. It's a good time to be excited about it. Councilmember Nueva Camino?
Thank you, Mayor. And on that note, Council President, we have 2 locations within Redmond that's on that map. I was checking it out just the other day. Last week on September 24th, we met the Committee of the Whole Parks and Environmental Sustainability Committee and it was wonderful. We got to hear about the recreation summer recap for 2024. We also got to, on that, what was great was that we are within our first 6 months of having the Senior Community Center open and seeing how that is impacting. So that was a great report. Had a great information on the recap for our summer events. It was mentioned that from spring to fall, Redmond really has an opportunity to shine. So we got to go over a couple of that, of course, with our largest event being Derby Days, and seeing how attendance actually was very, very healthy. We also got to take a look at the first few months that the Redmond Senior and Community Center has been open and operating with that update, and just reminding everybody that that is a breathing building right now. We're still working out and getting to know the building and operations, and it's been wonderful to have the community support while we do that. And then we wrapped it up with the 2023-2024 Environmental Sustainability Action Plan Annual Progress Report. And that is it from that meeting.
Thank you so much. Council Vice President.
Thank you. Just a small council leadership update. Council President Kritzer and I had an opportunity to pre-screen the Lodging Tax Advisory new committee member candidate that we will all be interviewing next week at 6:30 as part of within our council leadership's purview. We're taking back the reins on doing some of that pre-screening work. So it was a great opportunity for us to get to ask some pre-questions and for you all to meet him next week. It's very exciting. Good candidate. So look forward to those questions.
Council President?
Thank you for bringing that up, Council Vice President. And I just will clarify and thank the council members that raised the question about what is the process and who reviews the applications. I think we had originally understood that, similar to our other boards and commissions, that the mayor was interviewing, and realized that it actually is in the bucket of the council leadership. So we'll be doing that going forward, doing a pre-interview before they're recommended to council. But we do recommend this candidate come to council, and you'll be seeing them next week.
Thank you. Councilmember Fields?
Yeah, thank you. So basically, I have a question to council leadership. This pre-screening surprises me a bit, and I guess I don't understand the purpose. If the purpose is to pre-screen and be able to organize and present to the council, I'm okay with it. But if this pre-screen is to potentially remove a candidate before the rest of the council has an opportunity to interview them, that feels like an overstep. So which one is it?
Council President?
I think we didn't have the process in place. So for most of our boards and commissions, typically there's a recommendation. Usually the board or commission chair and vice chair will interview candidates, recommend them to the mayor, and then the mayor chooses to appoint them, and then they come to the council for an interview and confirmation. Because of the nature of the LTAC, it's actually written that it's all within council's jurisdiction. And so we thought that it might be prudent to have also an interview of those candidates and review of their resume by council leadership beforehand. And so we're putting that process in place.
So back to my question, though. Are you saying that council leadership has the authority to remove candidates prior to the rest of the council having the opportunity to meet them? Is that what I'm hearing? And I don't want to have the discussion tonight. I just want clarity.
Council Vice President?
No, that is not what we are saying. This candidate was actually screened by you and the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee prior to us even meeting this candidate. Moving forward, I guess we'll have to figure out what that process may look like. But no, that the intent here is not to remove anyone, but just to have that added touch point that normally the mayor would screen a candidate for other boards and commissions. Since this by our code falls within council's role, this is just that added step to ensure that we're bringing great candidates forward. And there was only one candidate in this process.
Council President?
Thank you.
And I would say, I think in this case, there was only one candidate, but should there be, say, 3 candidates that are recommended, typically, for example, the mayor on another board or commission would interview the candidates and decide which one to appoint. So I do believe that, you would need some sort of process to choose which candidate is going to come forward as the recommended one to the council. And so adding this step for council leadership to be able to review helps. The other piece is to review any other issues that might be relevant when in terms of the alignment for the candidates. And being able to work out any of those issues.
Thank you. Thanks for clarification. Any other committee reports this evening? Seeing none, there is no unfinished business, there's no new business, there's no executive session. And that concludes the business items for this meeting. And if there is no objection, we are adjourned. Everyone have a great night.